in a world changed just in a matter of days. The elongated hangover from New Year's. It just took one night, one day, 12 hours to change the trajectory of the United States and ultimately the world order. Everything achieved in the post-World War II modern era vanished, is now ushering us into a brave new world where the questions remain. Is the American president being blackmailed? Is an ally in disguise truly our adversary? And are they the puppet masters to our puppeteers? Is the president amongst the living, or a continuation of the caricature and mass bandit of the previous administration? Is a new civil war upon us? And what is the role of the once bastion of freedom on the shiny hill, America? Are we just a military might, or are we being put into pasture, archived for the glue factory in order to make way for the ultimate adversary of the not-so-distant future, and the robotic, artificial intelligence Manchurians that are waiting to replace us? The post-human era is here. Are we ready to live on our knees, or are we ready to die on our feet? Because ultimately, it's a world at war. Feed me before you bring me down, but don't start the season 6 premiere without me. Good evening, everybody. It is Dean Ryan here as World at War has returned, as Real Dean Media is welcoming a new season, the sixth season of doing this with all of you. And it is an honor and a privilege to just be here tonight and to have been here for 6 years and continue on with all of you. So it is a glorious debut. It's so good to be back. We have so much to talk about, so much to cover. During my short break, I guess we could call that our winter break there, it was not much of a break. I am recovering from the flu. That's why I sound like I've been singing the opera all night. So I do, in advance, apologize. But I am recovering because my enthusiasm for this year and what's to come is through the roof, because we're on the brink of war once again. Just when you thought it was, not going to be this administration, we're going to be getting into that, as tonight's episode is the new American empire. And in the second half tonight, joining us, you're going to hear an exclusive interview that I did with our EU, European Union insider, Forseti. And let me tell you, this is going to blow the smokes off everyone's chimney here tonight. As you're going to learn some things that none of the pundits in the alternative media dare to tell you. Because their investments in rich minerals from far off lands prevent them from doing so. You're going to be hearing just exactly what the empire is going to look like, whose empire, and also what is going to lie ahead down the road for this 2026 year as the festive and the festivities have only just begun, as you saw me with you shortly thereafter the New Year's Eve celebration with the breaking news items. Which I don't recall, unbeknownst to me. It was just a blink of an eye. You're going to hear some things about just exactly what lies ahead for NATO, Europe, he's going to tell us, but also our friends from Canada, as I did inquire. And is there hope for Canada? And just how bad is it over there, up there? You're going to hear just a little tidbit on that, and it's going to be quite refreshing. So that's going to be in the second half here tonight. Very big exclusive for all of you. Also, we're going to be just tethering upon some weird anomalies that I shared with the members just days ago that I'm going to share with the general public here tonight regarding the Venezuela capture. That some things don't sit well with me, as my digestive system will refuse to digest anything that is off-colored, manufactured, hocus pocus, or just plain old tomfoolery. So we'll be talking about that, and also some weird anomalies that are now pertaining to TP USA. That's right, toilet paper is now coming back, and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are big time in the target and over the target. But you're going to hear some weird anomalies, as I think I've cracked the code on just exactly what Turning Point USA truly is, and you'll be quite surprised. So you don't want to miss that here tonight. Okay. Got to get in the flow of this again. You know, just the holidays do this to me every year. They stop me. Anyways, we are broadcasting live. We're broadcasting live on the Real Dean Ryan over there on Facebook. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can see me. And hopefully you can hear me too. I've had some real shocking surprises as of late. We're also on Dean Ryan TV over there on YouTube. Hello, if you can find me through there, and as well as the incredibly frozen Rumble. And I guess we have Dan Bongiorno to think about that. Oh, yeah, and he's in the segment tonight. I can't wait for that one. In fact, I wish we could just fast forward to Dan's segment. Anyways, let's now get started with some headlines from around the world and in your neck of the American Empire Woods, I guess we can call it now, shall we? Let's get going. Well, bottles and cans, just clap your hands. It is the season 6 premiere. There it is, a candlelight vigilant of what we used to know as the U.S. Yeah, that's true. But we have a few headlines to attend to first before we start getting into our retrospective feelings. Well, that's now going to bring us to something that is quite the talk of the town lately. I'm sure you're well aware of it. You've heard about it. And this is kind of what happens in times of war. The domestic liberties are quite uncivil, although they say civil on the page. Well, what am I talking about? The disruptions over there in Minneapolis, the disruptions by the ICE agents who, you might have heard, a woman who was an activist, apparently might have hit her car in protest against one of the ICE agents, yet she didn't hit the ICE agent, although he hit her, apparently with a shot in the face, and it has spurred a ruckus that we haven't seen since the George Floyd riots. And if you don't know who that is, it's a fake dead black guy who was pretending to be a guy who was in need. Anyways, I don't want to get into that, but let me tell you about this now, because this is exactly the hot matchbox of a fire that is needed to erect, and I should say resurrect, excuse me, a civil unrest here in the United States. The communists would love that. But there's something of a foul nature to it all. In fact, let me tell you about this now. This is a new one you're going to hear about, as new videos are now rolling in by the hour now. ICE, the Immigration Customs Agency over there, grabbed a 17-year-old worker over there at Target from his job under the illusion he was not a U.S. citizen. After confirming he was, after he kept saying he was, I guess he got roughed up. They dumped him off at the wrong place of work, at a Walmart to be exact. And bystanders found him crying and bleeding as they slammed him to the ground. This is just unprecedented. And I tell you, the Goon Squad, they're not just here for the meat packers. They're here for people like us that are going to be showing dissent very soon. And in fact, here is the video at hand.
Hey, what you doing? Hey! Fuck you! Hey! Fuck you!
You guys are all on video.
Yeah, this is not doing anyone any good, is it? Anyone any good? And when you look at the details in the reports of how many migrants have left compared to the ones who left during the Biden administration and previous administrations, there's really not much of a difference or a dent, to be that exact. So just exactly what are the ICE agents and the National Guard doing in these cities to begin with? And I'm telling you, it is to sow discontent and discourse just the way the Mossad would want us to. That is just something to note. In addition to that, now there's something else that's showing discourse here in the United States. This is a new developing story that just came out today, as now a suspect has been caught in a Mississippi synagogue fire. Did you hear about this? Exactly, me neither. In fact, I haven't heard about Mississippi in probably since grade school at this point. That's one of the states that's last in everything, but first when it comes into these fires with churches, and then put your label right underneath it. Well, now a suspect over there in Mississippi, a synagogue fire, allegedly laughed about the attack, FBI says, because the FBI was there, not writing the script, but correcting it and making sure we know all the little tidbits of who was laughing, who was giggling, and who was gargling too, as now the federal officials on just today charged a man with setting fire to the only synagogue in Jackson, Mississippi, claiming that the suspect claiming the suspect did so because the buildings had, quote, Jewish ties. Now, is this passing the sniff test? I'm telling you. So just kind of like the Pulse nightclub just massacre that was literally in the middle of nowhere, they had to pick a synagogue that was literally in the middle of nowhere in somewhere Jackson, Mississippi, where even the Jewish people who live there said, what, we have a synagogue? This is all news to me. Well, now, according to a FBI affidavit, the building sustained a, quote, extensive damage, rendering it, quote, inoperable for an indefinite period of time. Yes, they got to whitewash it, meaning. Well, now the suspect identified by the FBI is Stefan Spencer Pittman, who just happened to have three names in this case, allegedly laughed about the attack, telling his father that, quote, he finally got them, after referring to the place of worship as the synagogue of Satan. See, according to the affidavit. And this David guy, you gotta read these things. Now, Pittman is charged with arson of property used in interstate commerce or used in activity affecting interstate commerce, or one or the other, your pick, according to the criminal complaint. Now, the fire occurred just over the weekend, Saturday at 3 a.m. to be exact, where the FBI just happened to be there at the ATF, and they heard him snickering in the corner. Yes, they did, just enough time to report that. Now, just in the nick of time as well, the ISJL, who operates in the area, if you don't know who that is, well, they're the Institute of Southern Jewish Life. And, it operates in the interstate and foreign commerce as it provides services to the communities over there. So in 13 different states, they're now just calling foul play and saying this is happening everywhere around the country. I wonder who's doing it. Now, Pittman allegedly admitted to stopping to purchase gasoline, taking his license plate off his car, breaking a window at the synagogue, pouring the gasoline inside of the building, using a torch lighter to start the fire, according to the affidavit, which is just a stunning, shocking report. Now, Pittman was identified immediately as the person of interest and familiar with the matter, ultimately confessed to the lighting of the fire inside the building due to the building's Jewish ties. He just wants to make sure we're aware of that. Now, security video from the inside of the building showed the fire was started by an individual inside the building in the early mornings, but no question, or I should say no answer, if there was any other further Army fatigued personnel who joined him. Now, in closing, Pittman's father told authorities that later that day he confronted his son and said he shouldn't have done this because he observed burns on his son's ankles, hands, and face, which was more than usual that he's used to observing on his son's hands, ankles, and face. So there you have it. Just another very well predicted kind of attack here. And who benefits, I wonder. So that's how that one goes. Now, continuing with that, that's now going to lead us to something very important here as we now go into the hallways of World War III. And my word, there is a lot to get to here tonight. Let's get right into it, shall we? World War III, just the way we don't. World War III, yes, a wonderful world filled with war, or as Lindsey Graham calls it, a romance novel. Yes, you might have heard about it, as I was trying to express well before the new year came, that next in line was Iran. Iran is connected to Venezuela. And it's all connected, and there's a driving force behind it all. And just to show you how popular war is in the beginning, well, you don't have to look back too far to just remember that. I mean, are you inclined to forget the popularity of the Iraq War in the beginning, the Afghanistan War, the Vietnam War? Pick a war and we'll find you a cheerleader. And if we do, he might look like this.
But this might be the night. It's just a matter of time now. It's just a matter of time. Why is it just a matter of time? And you know what I'm talking about, don't you? This tyrannical regime needs to end. We need to end this for the good people of Iran and for our own selves and the people of Israel. We need to take this guy down. He needs to leave standing up or laying down. I don't care. He needs to go. And if we can pull this off, it'd be the biggest change in the Mideast in 1,000 years. Hamas, Hezbollah, gone.
Groveling at the mouth there. Groveling at the mouth. I mean, this man is so in love with the idea of war. He has such an impeccable taste for the blood and the lust of blood of his enemies and his friends too. I mean, the guy's getting the mange right in front of us. That's just a little snippet, a preview of the neocons, the war hawks, all the words we're not supposed to say right now, which are going to come back to haunt me somewhere down the road later this year. I can feel it. The future me is telling me. But that's just it. So you might have heard about the protests now in Iran that happened in concert, in concerto, right in the same timing as Venezuela was happening. Because remember what we shared with you? Venezuela was the pretext into taking the Iranian war next. And also, it was the pretext into what they attempted to do, and I just found this out after the fact, was to get the silver. See, the silver is needed for the Israeli missiles that are going to be needed in this upcoming war with Iran. However, Maduro just happened to have moved in his entire bullion of silvers to Russia and China. And I'm telling you, there's something bizarre about the entire black bagging of Maduro. And in fact, I found this to be very interesting. And you tell me, How many wardrobe changes can one man who's not on the catwalk, but on the perp walk, how many can he do in one sitting?
Venezuela thing is not real. It is designed to make all of the NPCs rally behind the military industrial complex, and that is exactly what's happening. So, quick question for all these special forces guys out there. What is the standard procedure and protocol for when you are invading an enemy country and capturing their leader in very hostile conditions? How many outfits do you typically allow them to bring, and how many times do you facilitate an outfit change while bringing them back to your country to imprison them? I'm super curious.
Yeah, I'm super curious as well, I must say. So now, as we go to Iran, as that leads us now to this, is they're now ready for war if the U.S. wants to attack in a vengeful day with the protesters. In fact, this is something that Trump was promoting early on, and I found it very, very worrisome and suspect as Netanyahu, who has the keys to the White House, the keys to the Pentagon, was just at an emergency meeting at the Pentagon just in the past 24 to 38 hours, to be exact. And it seems to have spurred a charge of electricity into Trump as he's now talking about airstrikes. In fact, I found this little clip right before we went to air. Check this out. And then I'm going to tell you about who these protesters are, who's spurring them along, and how did it all begin. Check this out as we get to the bottom of it. The Iranian war is now upon us.
This is really nice. Look at this. There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent. If you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Are you going to send Starlink to Iran, sir, to help the people on the ground?
If
The
you,
internet blackout for 74 days.
well, we're going to be talking about that. We may get the internet going if that's
Are you
possible.
talking to us?
We may speak to Elon, because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company. So we may speak to Elon Musk. And in fact, I'm going to call him as soon as I'm finished with you.
Okay, thank you for that. That gives you a little taste of what I'm talking about here. They're ready to go to war. Yes, Netanyahu wants the war. Israel wants the war. Overwhelming support in Israel for this. You should see some of the posts and comments of people for this on Facebook. It's quite troubling. I mean, no matter which way you slice it, the amount of death is doubling, tripling now. But let me tell you about the protest here. We seem to have a, there's Trump right there. Let me tell you about the protest is now, thank you. Now the protest, yes, just like we saw when Trump came to power, there happened to be the Women's March. What a coincidence. What a coincidence this one is as well, and something doesn't pass the smell test because something ain't right. Well, now the Iranian, an Iranian, I should say, is due to be executed tomorrow. They're saying just 4 days after he was seized for taking part in the so-called anti-government protests. Now, a 26-year-old named Efron Soltani was held Saturday in a brutal crackdown by the teetering regime, which has seen more than 500 protesters killed and 10,000 arrested. Now, this comes out of the Sun newspaper, the U.S. edition. So which way do you think they're swaying? Yeah, you get the protocols around here. Now, it's now said that the protesters were pretty violent. To which degree, I'm not sure yet, but it's now thought that in this case, he was charged for waging war against God, which is punishable by death in Iran following his arrest near the capital city itself, Tehran. Now, supporters say he has not been allowed legal advice and has no chance to defend himself before a verdict of death by hanging was delivered. He was allowed to see his family for just 10 minutes yesterday to say goodbye. The National Union for Democracy in Iran has said that, quote, he was denied access to a lawyer. Efron's only crime was calling for freedom. This sounds like a puff piece to me. Now, his execution will be the first of a protester since the uprising began at the end of last year. And, I say this to you And the partisans out there and the people who are just viewers that do like war, just in general, guys, you have to remember the October 7th, how, we heard the babies were boiling in the ovens and all kinds of heinous things. The fog of war, the rumors of war. I mean, it's just all in the beginning. We've been through this before. Now, Tehran is now beginning to expedite court hearings for a lot of protesters, they're saying. Now, Donald Trump, one of Iran's biggest foes, not fans, has responded to the deadly crackdown on civilian protests by threatening to use military force on Tehran in order to restore peace, because I'm sure that's going to work out just smoothly. Now, Trump has also, as you heard earlier there, could decide to attack Iran as soon as today, like right now. Who needs declaration of war? You just do what you want there. He's now saying he will be briefed on specific options coming tomorrow and could opt for military action despite Iran pleading with him to negotiate, which last time they tried to negotiate anything, who recalls, they got lullabied into they were just so happy and they got bombed. It was a trap. So why negotiate with the U.S.? Our name is mud. Imagine that. Now, in addition to that, Iran responded by vowing to target American military and commercial sites in Washington. Yes, in Washington, that pristine place. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi added, quote, that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not seeking war, but is fully prepared for war. Well, yeah, Israel's seeking war, and, we're their hired guns to do it, although we pay them to do it. You see? He went on to further say, we will hit them at levels that they've never seen nor been hit before. The leaders of Iran also said they want to negotiate. I think they're tired of being beat up by the United States. Someone who's familiar with the matter has now claimed. Now, the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, well, he's now weighing in on this, posted a cartoon of a crumbling Trump statue on X, with the underline of saying he too will be overthrown. So this is incredible. Now, just to conclude here, at least 540 people have been killed, they're saying, including 8 children, with 10,681 arrested among the 169 youngsters. Wow. And can anybody see this being mirrored right here in the United States with the same kind of protest and the same kind of pain and hurt? I mean, have we forgotten Occupy Wall Street and what that entailed? Yeah, we can see the same thing happening here. And the decrying of world leaders saying that Trump is killing, punishing, you name it. The same can and probably will be happening here very soon. So that's what they're calling for, the vengeful day now. But I want to show you some other things here. Now, in addition to that, what do we know about these protests? Well, here's what I'm talking about here. Have a look at this.
هذه الصورة الآن من كرمان مشاهدينا، نسمع التكبيرات، نسمع الهتافات.
There's a lot of Mossad and CIA recruitments urging this along.
مواطنون إيرانيون من مختلف الفئات العمرية جاءوا للمشاركة في هذه المسيرات المليونية ولإيصال رسالة واضحة في رفض أعمال الشغب المسلح ورفض أي كمائن تنصب لإيران بمشاركة أطراف خارجية.
Lindsey Graham sends other women and children to fight his wars for him because he's a big pussycat. Okay, so there's an idea of the vast volume of this now. But let's go a bit further into it now, as we're trying to get to the bottom of the false flags and the people who are manufacturing them, as these are not organic, are they? Well, the protests that you see sweeping Iran and the crackdown on the protests, it's just a result of war in the beginnings of it and the making of a major conflict of world war. Now, protests in Iran over the country's economic conditions have broke out starting in December of last year, in an appalling rate too. Well, they've now snowballed into a broader challenge to the clerical rulers who have governed Iran since 1979's Islamic Revolution that was facilitated and helped by the Iran-Contra participators, one of them, George Herbert Walker Bush. Now, what are the protests in Iran about? Many have asked. Well, the protests broke out over the soaring prices in Iran starting December 28th, after the rial plunged into a record low against the United States dollar in late December. That's their currency called the rial, R-I-A-L. Now, the protest started with shopkeepers in Tehran's Grand Bazaar who shuttered their shops and began demonstrating, and the rest is history. Now, their currency was trading at more than $1.4 million to $1, a sharp decline from around 700,000 a year earlier. So, and you have to remember all the economic sanctions on Iran, a country that has invaded no other country since 1775. Now, officials now release fuel prices, and they're trying to get people to rally around their economy and government. Yes, it is. So that's just a little tidbit of how it all began, as the Mossad was wondering, and with the CIA, two of the same. How are we going to just get these clerical people out? You must ask. But China's asking something similar too, and we're going to come back to Israel in the end. Well, now they're asking, as these are making the headlines around the United States, news organizations, as the White House weighs Iran's nuclear talks offer as Trump leans towards strikes. Of course he does. Of course he does. Israel says jump. He says which way? But then there's this now, as now China is getting involved, as they have some stake in the game. And they have some shrimp in the wok. As now China waves their finger at U.S. Which finger? I guess we know. Well, let me tell you about this now. This is quite a huge development for many, and has many implications to it now. Yes, China is now saying the U.S. should not use other countries as a pretext to pursue its national interest. In fact, just before and around the time of Venezuela, look at this. China has issued a clear warning to the United States, stating that Washington should avoid any military move against Venezuela. Beijing says the U.S. must not threaten a nation where China has major investment interest. You see? So all these years I've been saying that Iran is really just a proxy war with China for Israel. Well, it's now turning out to be true. But there's a bit more to this. Let's get to it now, as we find out, where is China? They've been so silent, which is quite eerie, scary, and frightening, as now they're saying U.S. shouldn't use other countries as the pretext to pursue their interest. But is it really our interest, or is it someone else's now? Now, China said just today that the United States should stay out and stop using these pretexts to pursue its interests, whether it's Greenland, and said its activities in the Arctic comply with international law, the U.S. has said. Now, the comment by a Chinese foreign minister spokesperson came in response to a question at a regular daily briefing, where the United States president over there, Donald Trump, has said that he would like to make a deal to acquire Greenland. Yes, he would. He's very interested in. In fact, here's a little take on what that was.
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will, and I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland, and I am not going to let that happen.
Is there any deal they can offer you? Either like
Yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
So he really wants Greenland, and there's a lot of things tied to it, which you'll find out in the second half here tonight with our exclusive interview. Now, Trump reiterated his arguments that the U.S. needs to take Greenland, otherwise Russia or China would, as you heard there. Now, China in 2018 declared itself a, quote, near Arctic state in effort to gain more influence in the region. Now, Beijing has also announced plans to build the, quote, Polar Silk Road. The Polar Silk Road. Not the bipolar, but the polar, as part of the Global Belt and Road Initiative, I'm sure you're aware of, which has created an economic boom, some are saying, and it's only going to increase as it links other countries around the world to the railroad itself. Asked in Beijing today about the U.S. statements that it is necessary for Washington to take over Greenland to prevent China and Russia from taking control, Chinese Foreign Minister Mei Ning replied that, quote, China's activities in the Arctic are aimed at promoting peace, stability, sustainability, development in the region, and so we could sell very cheap goods that only Westerners would buy, accordance to international law. But it's very, very troublesome because, you think about what China has been allowing Iran to acquire because they can't purchase any weapons from the U.S. So who have they been buying from? China, where nuclear is not necessarily needed. You see how that works there? Okay, this next one here, I want to show you this. As now, somebody put this together. This is incredible. These are all the countries now that have been attacked by Israel just in 2025 alone. Yeah, I didn't know this either. I mean, we're probably aware of one or two, but you're going to see it all consolidated, and it's going to make sense and give you a bit more perspective of why we're always in the military might, always in the front line of these things, and how come nobody else is. I wondered why majority of my life. Check this out, as this is very telling as we try to put together in a very confusing world filled with war. Here it
has
is.
attacked more countries than any other country this year. Over 10,600 attacks on 6 countries and 3 territorial waters. These maps show where those attacks took place. Palestine. What you're seeing are the locations of the 1,308 documented Israeli attacks on the occupied West Bank, and the 7,024 on Gaza just from January to December 2025. This year, Israel accelerated its assaults to tighten its grip on the West Bank, while it repeatedly violated ceasefire agreements in Gaza. Israel's war has reduced Gaza to this, and forcibly displaced over 2 million people. Lebanon. Israel launched more than 1,650 attacks across Lebanon this year. As you can see, those attacks were largely concentrated in southern Lebanon, but extended to the Bekaa Valley and the outskirts of the capital, Beirut. Satellite imagery from this village shows entire areas flattened by Israeli attacks. Iran. On June 13, Israel launched a barrage of strikes with 200 jets hitting dozens of nuclear, military, and infrastructure sites across Iran, including the country's main nuclear facility in Natanz. During the 12-day conflict, Israel also attacked neighborhoods, killing several nuclear scientists and military commanders. Syria. Israel launched more than 200 attacks on Syria, with the bulk of attacks focused on the south. It has been attacking Syria for years, trying to justify its actions by claiming to eliminate Iranian military installations. On July 16, it struck the Syrian Ministry of Defense in the capital. The damage seen in these satellite images. Yemen. Israel launched at least 48 attacks against the Houthis in Yemen, targeting Houthi-controlled infrastructure, including Sana'a International Airport, Hodeidah Port, and several power stations. On September 9, Israel struck Qatar's capital, targeting the Hamas leadership who were meeting to discuss a U.S. proposed ceasefire for Gaza. Netanyahu later apologized to Qatar for the attack that killed 6 people. While Israel has targeted these countries, it has also struck Gaza-bound 8 flotillas in Tunisian, Maltese, and Greek territorial waters.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it there. You could see the carnage that has been just raged all over the world, especially the Middle East, and we're paying for this. We have to understand we're subsidizing a very small country that's, some say it's an extension of the U.S., some say it's the puppeteer. I mean, whatever you want to call it, wherever you stand, we're paying for this. And the taxes are supposed to be a representation of the citizens here in the United States. And this doesn't represent me. I know it doesn't represent a lot of people in this country. And the ones who want it to represent them, well, they can pay for it in their own right. And we have to put a stop to this because we're going to be dedicating our lineage in the future to these cosmic futuristic wars that are happening, like right now. Right now. And a lot of these countries, they want to have negotiations. Well, how the hell is that possible when, your negotiators are getting just assassinated? That's beyond me. It's beyond me. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We have a bit more to go here. We have a lot of stories to go. We're going to take this quick break. When we get back, I want to get into a few more political things here at hand. I'm going to arrange that for you. But we're going to get into the very much talked about and anticipated interview with our very own Forseti. In fact, I think we'll get right into that right after the break. So you are watching the season 6 premiere here of Real Deal Media's #1 late night show, World at War. I will be back after this quick message. Stand by. Let's go on record at the most annoying, constant sound you could ever hear at the gym of slamming the weights. That gentleman is tired. And it infuriates me. It infuriates me to no end. And he seems to be of the some kind of understanding, internal understanding that the harder he slams his weights, just the giant, grandiose leap of muscle growth will start spurring along. You know, like Jack and the Beanstalk. And it cannot be any further from the truth. The only thing that is spurring along is the irritation and the vitriolic thoughts that are swirling through my mind. Very big bonfire ready to just explode even further. But so I have to say something. I might have to say something because he's pissing me off. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Yeah. Behind me. Right behind me. Hear it? You can't hear it. Amazing. Amazing. That's not how you do it. That's not how you do it at all. It's like a hammer on the head. It's over. Real deal gripes there. I couldn't believe that. You know, watching that again. Oh my God. Welcome back to World at War, everybody. I'm still Dean Ryan. Yes, I am your cruise director, cruising with you to midnight and beyond. Did you see that? Okay. Just so in case you missed it, the old guy there, he was doing the curls, right? And he had the weights. He stacked them to the max, right? And he's not even curly. He's jumping up like a frog to lift the weights, and then he's like landing back down on the seat, and like that's a surefire way to break the machine. This total idiot, and he does this every weekend. And so many people come up to him and say, "Sir, oh, you're not doing it right." He doesn't care. Now wait till I come up to him next. That's going to be part 2 because I'm just tired of that quack jumping up like he's like the WB frog. Just I've never seen anything that's how kids do it. Like when they're 8 years old or whatever. Anyways, welcome back everybody to a season 6 premiere. We have so many. We have some great new designs in the store coming up, which I'm going to tell you about tomorrow with when Jim Fetzer joins us. We have an incredible new designs as we are celebrating a commensurate 100th anniversary. You'll know more about it tomorrow, but a 100-year anniversary of Route 66. Can you believe that? And so to commensurate all that, I will be dedicating a lot of the designs this year, periodically, to just that. And I think you'll be very pleased in some of the things that we are creating around here. Anyways, okay, we are back here as... yes, if you're not a member, well, you're missing out. Members get things first. Yes, they do. All you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv, become a night owl, a visionaire, become a pioneer, become an empire near. It's probably a new word developing out there. So you could do that just by going to realdealmedia.tv, become a night owl tonight. Okay, let's now transition here to speaking about some Real Deal Internationals, which is going to take us to, well, it's going to take us all the way to where Forseti is, in an undeclared location. But let's talk about Canada first here. Real Deal International, as we were getting ready for this here tonight, I asked Forseti the amount of questions that were just weighing on my mind, but what I think people want to know about. For instance, we have a lot of Canadian viewers out there, and I've never learned or talked about Canada so much in my life until these last couple of years. I mean, it's so bad up there, I'm finding out. Now a citizen-led petition has now launched to trigger Alberta's independence referendum. You see? And it's because we're keeping these dialogues, we're keeping these conversations going, that the communist republic known as Canada is being forced to change because we left the light on. And you're going to be hearing more about this, but just a little quick update on that. The citizen-led petition seeking Alberta's separation from Canada is officially launched, marking the province's first formal step forward to a potential independence referendum itself, kind of like we saw with Scotland, Hong Kong. So it's nothing unusual. Well, the petition approved just days ago, January 2nd of the new year, by Alberta's chief electoral officer, backed by Alberta's Prosperity Project, must gather 177,732 signatures, according to my memory, by May 2nd of this year to trigger the referendum. I mean, can I sign that too? Is that possible? I might just get citizenship just so I can sign it. Now, the support is the initiative. It's grown with the frustration of the re-elected Liberal federal government under Prime Minister Mark Carnage. Yes, yeah, or as he's known in China, Carney-san, particularly over energy policy in opposition to new pipelines. Yeah, I mean, they're just denigrating just a beautiful destination of Canada. They're killing their own people, and they're replacing them with who? That's right, the rivers, a certain river, something called the Ganges River. Yeah, those citizens, the Ganges River dwellers, as we know. Now, just to note, the premier over there, I guess, that's their governor, Daniela Smith, does not support Alberta leaving Confederation, but says her government will respect the democratic process and allow a citizen-led referendum and legal requirements met. Well, I don't recall her opinion being asked. Did you? Did anyone say, gee, I wonder what Daniela Smith, I wonder what she thinks of the referendum? No, the only thing she has to worry about is getting the hell out of our way. I mean, their way. I'm not part of it, but you know what I mean. So that's just a little international update for you. Now, let's get to the man of the hour here. EU Insider Forseti has been with Real Deal Media for 6 years. If you're new or may not know or forgot, well, he's a man who has shared strategic, just political maneuvers that are happening. Who's really dead? He told us about Richie Sunak, who was going to be the prime minister after Boris Yeltsin left over there, the prime minister, Johnson. We knew things beforehand as he worked in Parliament in the UK. Then he moved up on the ladder there as he moved on down to the east side, and now is working in the Parliament, allegedly. I shouldn't be saying that, but over there in the EU, the European Union, which really presides over everything of legislation to migration over the UK, and a lot of European countries. So people have no idea. They're the shadowy group. Well, in this next feature here, you're going to learn about just exactly what the world, specifically the EU leaders, think of what just took place in Venezuela, what's about to take place in Iran, and what is the future of NATO, what's the future of Russia, and just exactly who is Donald Trump working for. Well, now let's get into the deep alleyways of our very own insider from the European Union, Forseti. Tell us, please. Forseti, it's so good to see you again. The world has changed, but I'm so glad you could join us on this season 6 premiere, if you can believe it. 6 years around the sun, and you're still with us.
Good evening or morning.
Let's just talk about the first thing that I guess a lot of the people around the world, and especially the European leaders, seem to be acknowledging and witnessing, and that is the blatant invasion, I guess you could say, and arrest of Maduro, the president of Venezuela, the former president. What is the rest of the world feeling right now, knowing that every post-World War II, celebrated international law has virtually, once again, been blatantly broken?
Okay, so let's just clear up the Maduro thing a little bit so we can just get a wider idea of how this is affecting everything. So the CIA or special forces that America sent in there, they would have had to be welcomed in with open arms to have no casualties on either side, which also means that Maduro's own people would have probably given him up because Maduro has lost multiple elections but has refused to step down. So it does look like it was an inside job from the Venezuela side as well. So it looks like Trump went in as a liberator to remove Maduro, and the rest of the world has decided just to jump on the Trump administration, saying they've done such a horrible, evil thing. Technically, it is illegal, but if there's someone really, really bad inside your house, or you leave the front door open so the police can come and take him away, you're not actually doing something wrong, are you?
And it's really, from an American perspective, it's so reminiscent of everything we've been through and probably will have to go through again with Iran, which I know we'll get to. But from a distance, it just looks like Iraq 2.0, at least the procedures of it. And they're already talking about the following, at least from the military perspective.
Of course, the countries, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, with Russia relationships. Why this region matters, with all of its rich resources and rare earth elements. You've got the lithium triangle, which is needed for technology today. 60% of the world's lithium is in the lithium triangle: Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. You just have the largest oil reserves, light sweet crude, discovered off of Guyana over a year ago. You have Venezuela's resources as well, with oil, copper, gold. We have the Amazon, lungs of the world. We have the 31% of the world's fresh water in this region too. It's just off the charts. We have a lot to do. This region matters. It has a lot to do with national security, and we need to step up our game.
But it appears that this is a major land grab, and I think the tall tale signs of not only that, but a lot of the new administration, I should say, potential new administration for Venezuela, happen to be all Israeli born. That's no surprise there, is it?
Well, not really, because when you become the leader of one of the most powerful countries in the world, you have to get in bed with one faction, and it just seems that Trump got in bed with the Israeli faction rather than the multiple other factions available. Like the Biden administration got in bed with the China faction, for example. You have to get in bed with one faction. There's not else. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to have no allies, and everyone's just going to gang up on you, and you're going to have no allies. It's just like picking the best of a bad situation. It's like, which poison apple are you going to eat?
That's very interesting you say that, because since the Trump 2.0 has really been in power, I can't recall this amount of Israeli first legislation, posturing. In fact, just within the past 12 hours, Netanyahu, well, surprise, surprise, went straight to the Pentagon for emergency meetings today. The Israel factor is really in our face, and their poll numbers of favorability it seems to be tanking faster than the Trump administration. Do you see it that way from your side of the fence there?
This side of the fence, we're making preparations for Netanyahu not being in charge of Israel in a foreseeable time frame. He's very unpopular in Israel. Israelis hate him. All the world leaders hate him. The Trump administration hates him. I'm willing to put money on when Zelensky goes, Netanyahu will shortly follow.
Now, you say will likely go. What does that entail? Is he just going to ride off into the sunset, with a harmonica and just plans of just, vegetating on an island? Or are we talking about facing maybe war crimes, the arrest warrants from the ICC? What type of departure are you kind of seeing?
Well, I don't think the Trump administration is going to black bag him like they did with Maduro. I think he's just going to lose an election and he's just going to fade into obscurity like a lot of world leaders have done that were pretty terrible. There's so many world leaders in that part of the world and in the West that have just failed. I've just fall into obscurity after losing an election, after being such a massive figurehead. Like George Bush, for example, he was one of the orchestrators of the Iraq War, and he's kind of fallen into complete obscurity. The last time anybody heard from him was when Trump left office in last time.
Something else that seems to be underway is the protest in Iran, in which are in totally concert with everything happening in Venezuela. Literally, it's been started by the CIA and Mossad. No surprise there as well. But now we hear signs of, the Iranian guards firing back at these protesters, which, who knows if they're protesters or just the Mossad CIA guys masquerading as such. How close are we to seeing another version of Venezuela, but on a grander scale with Iran?
Well, they're kind of linked, because if America needs to show that it's available to go on an all-out war footing, and what America can produce itself would only last a couple of months on an all-out war footing. So securing resources on the American continent, like Venezuela and the other countries south of the border and north of the border and Greenland, is going to help build up those reserves and that military, the products they need to make the equipment for the military. And if they're cut off from Iran, China, like they think they're probably going to be, it's all linked. If Iran destabilizes and allies with the West right now, that means America and the West are going to have the stuff to do an all-out war footing. If they're able to do an all-out war footing, other countries will back off. Right now, they can't, so it's just up in the air.
What would be the point of this war, outside of just another war of getting rid of Israeli neighbors, and also fulfilling the 7 out of 7 countries for the Greater Israel Project with Iran being the last domino? Is it just that factor, or is it the original factor that you and I mentioned about 2 years ago, Albert Pike prediction of mutual destruction between Israel and Iran, with the European leaders applauding in silence, being annihilists themselves?
Well, I think we need to go above that question to understand what's going on about the question you're asking. So to bring it back to the whole bagging Maduro from Venezuela. So every other warmongering leader in Europe right now and the UK who wanted a war with Russia, who wanted wars with other countries, the war hogs that you Americans like to call them, they're all now shitting their pants that they're going to get black bagged now. Everyone who's badmouthed Trump, badmouthed Vance, badmouthed America, badmouthed the American Empire, which we'll come back to shortly, they're all terrified that they're going to get black bagged like Maduro, and now they're trying to cozy back up to America again. So this is actually quite a good thing, because that now means that a war with Russia and Europe is looking very, very unlikely, especially since Putin has been out publicly saying he does not want a war with Europe. And if it does start, it'll be that Europe started it.
That's very interesting from that standpoint, from a geopolitical military standpoint. That I could see where that makes sense now. You put the, the PR, the pain of the downward PR you get from it is domestic, but I guess short-lived when you look at the long game. Very interesting. But speaking of that, the American Empire, which is kind of a search term that's recently came up and been spurred upon for a couple of days now. Again, a lot of people domestically here, they can see that, but they can't get past the elephant in the room, which is Israel. Is it an American empire or is it an extension of the greater Israeli project, is the question.
I think the two aren't mutually exclusive from what I understand, and this is just me going off data presented to me. It seems like they're one and the same thing. I think because we're moving past the times of countries like being countries and being sovereign nations was last century. We're moving back to the time of empires, and I think Israel, the way it's going to go forward, is going to be an arm of the American empire. We're going to have empires again. We're going to have the Russian Empire, the American Empire, some kind of Asian empire. That's how it's going to be. That's the not too distant future.
So we are kind of going back to lords and serfs in the modern era. One last question on this. You know, a lot of people have asked. You've made a lot of controversial statements through my facilitation here. Trump, is he Mossad?
I believe Trump is Mossad, but you've disagreed with me on this in the past. I believe that. I believe Epstein was Mossad. So we all know Epstein was Mossad at this point. And Ghislaine Maxwell, her dad was Mossad. And also, we have to remember as well, Epstein was just the sacrificial lamb. There's much worse people of Epstein with much more collateral and shit on more powerful people than we know. For example, everyone seems to think that Elon Musk is the richest man in the world right now. Do you really think the richest man in the world will let you know who he is and what dirt they could have on him and what dirt he could have on everybody else?
How come none of these superpowers have stopped the genocide, have stopped the ethnic cleansing? How come nobody's stopping this?
Because it's a massive distraction from everything else they don't want you to pay attention to. It's like dangling the keys in front of a child. You're distracting them from the other thing you don't want them to pay attention to.
Which has got to be the monetary situation.
Well, we are heading to a massive financial collapse. We've not recovered from the 2008 financial collapse. We've been waiting for the second seismic hit from that from a while. It's coming. It's coming. And when it comes, it's either going to go two ways. We're going to have hyper-nationalism, where the people stand up and defend their own countries that become their own empires, or people like the World Economic Forum are going to take over, and we're going to have global communism where you own nothing and you're happy from their monarchy. It's going to be one of those two things. They're the only two options we have. And as much as I don't trust Trump, and I think he's Mossad, I think that's the faction that might lead to the hyper-nationalism that's going to pull people back. But even then, it's up in the air if it will. I also kind of trust, I don't want to sound like I'm compromised. I'm not. But I think I trust Russia more than I do the European Union, just to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are okay with that.
Well, one of the things that I did when talking with some of my Russian counterparts is in Russia, in their constitution, this is one of the things why Putin is so popular over there, is that he enshrined in their constitution in law that anything over 13% tax is communist. So Russia, in their constitution, can never have more than 13% tax.
You know, speaking of the EU, speaking of NATO, we know the EU shitting bricks, but what's the point of NATO now? I mean, what alliance? Who are they protecting? I mean, if we could just have another country just black bag a presidential leader, what's the point of them?
I think NATO is going to go as well. Let's face it, the way NATO was created to protect the West from Russia, hypothetically, and other threats, but it really is that every other country has to buy things from America at a higher rate. You can't produce your own weapons. You have to buy them from American companies at a higher rate, and America gets a cut. That's what NATO is. It's just a big military industrial complex machine. That's all it is.
You know, there's going to be a lot of changes. We know Starmer over there in the UK is said to be, he's going to be ousted.
I don't think he is. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. So who I think they're going to let Starmer lose an election. So this is just speaking of something. This is what I used to do back in England. You do like the math and you go, what's the most likely outcome? He could be ousted. Someone could make a leadership challenge because they get overzealous and they think it's going to be good for their own career. But if you sit back and just let that entire administration collapse around the next election, you can put everything bad on Starmer, and then Labour can run again and try and win the election after that with a new leader blaming the old administration and blaming Starmer. So it's just in the next Labour's leader's best interest to let them lose an election and blame Starmer for it all.
Starmer, where do we see Canada too? I'm thinking about the Commonwealth now. If Ukraine was the gateway for the EU and NATO to have a surefire chance of wounding Russia, if Ukraine was that gateway, isn't Canada going to be the same kind of threat to the so-called new American empire?
From what I hear and from what I understand, if Trump gets Greenland, Canada is going to take that as a threat. If Trump doesn't get Greenland, Canada is just going to think it's business as usual. But let's face it, Canada is like the biggest threat to itself right now. They're mass importing Indians, and they've started letting its citizens choose euthanasia as a medical treatment. So something's going on in Canada. I think Canada's in worse state than people think it is. They've just not realized it yet.
Do we see Macron leaving too? We see Macron leaving when Zelensky leaves, and the tranny, his wife, whoever the hell that is.
The dude that molested him when he was a teenager.
Well, you said it, not me.
Allegedly. Fine, I'll cover your back. So it looks like Macron is the creator of his own destruction. So he tried to make the political leader Le Pen. He tried to make her party illegal. He tried to put her in prison to the point where she had stepped down from her own party because it was going to beat him. And now they've got a younger guy whose name escapes me, who is much better than Le Pen, who's more popular with everybody else. So he's created his own worst enemy that's actually going to beat him at an election. So it's either going to be that his party panics, removes him, puts someone else in to fight that election, or he's going to try and get through it and lose. So Macron's not going to make it past the next election cycle, and that's only a few years away.
Well, Forseti, it's so good to have you back for our season opener, and I look forward to having you on again soon as the world is changing so fast. Thank you again, my friend.
You too. Good night, everybody.
Okay, there you have it right there. Let's talk about that. That was an exclusive interview with our EU insider, Forseti, who I've been affiliated with him here since 2020, since it all began. And God, he's come a long way. So I'm very proud of his efforts and hard work in getting this out, because he doesn't necessarily have to, but he does care about this audience a whole lot. So let's talk about the takeaways from that, what the future looks like. And I'll put it into layman's for you. Well, we kind of knew that countries were kind of a thing of the past, just the way the globalists have been playing and describing it for quite some time. But to hear what the future is now, consolidating into empires, that's like this is going to the Conquer and Divide board games that I recall playing many years ago. But that's it. So what Trump has done, and what the American military and this administration, to say the least, has done, is they're now acquiring all of the resources of the Western Hemisphere here, in particular the Americas, are going to belong to the U.S. And it sounds crazy, but just because we don't hear about it enough, this is exactly what China's been doing this entire time here, the last 5 years. So the world is bogged down with the COVID-19 84. The pandemic happens. I always thought it was kind of weird. I had my eye on China. I said, why is China, why are they poking the certain countries and trying to take the resources? The Philippines, one, Australia, they're on the same timeline as Australia, the same time zone that is. Hong Kong had their independence. Who remembers the Yellow Jackets protest right before 2020 over there in 2019? And it never made sense to me, but now that I'm seeing what the world is shaping up into is just that. So basically, we are rotor-rootering out the influence of China and their investments out of our Western hemispheres. That's why you had China waving their finger saying, U.S. better not do such and such any further because they're in Canada. Yeah, Canada is China. China is Canada. You know, who came first, China or the Canadians? And what is China do is they're doing exactly what we've seen, and I've seen personally happen in Africa, in particular the Congo. They're eradicating the natives, in this case, the Canadian people. They're doing it through means of ideological subversion. We've seen that here in this country with a lot of the transitionings, a lot of the confusion with the youth, a lot of the Mao Zedong kind of ideology with our college professors. Many who escaped roughly about 4 years ago went back to China because of their CCP ties. I mean, the list goes on and on. So that's what they're shaping into. So China's looking to land grab Taiwan. They're probably going to succeed with that. I mean, we don't have I don't think we have the true firepower to fight all these wars for Israel, let alone ourselves. So they're going to take Taiwan. They're going to try to take the Philippines, which could be in question how that's going to work. And then there's the Australian factor too. And remember what I shared with you, that all these anti-Semitic hate speech laws were a mechanism of Israel getting into the Commonwealth to jackboot out the Chinese influence. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And I saw it from miles away. We're seeing it in Australia right now. You have the Prime Minister, what's his last name? Do Nothing over there in Australia, who, it seems to be a theme with the constant PMs, or recent PMs rather, of kind of giving a cold shoulder and cutting ties ever so slightly with China. That's the hard part, though. They're gonna say, because China owns the mineral rights, they own the water rights and many land rights over there in Australia. But then again, you could just see what Sarah Huckabee did as governor of Arkansas and just ripped up the contracts, and that's, I guess, all you need to do in this case. So you're going to see that happen in the Commonwealth. There is an effort to do that. What doesn't sit well with me about it, as ugly as it sounds, is we're tied to the hip of a very genocidal country doing this. I wish we weren't. It'd be a bit more plausible and digestible if we weren't, for that fact. The other hand is you have Russia. Now, I think you're going to see probably a strong arm of Russia taking over Eastern Europe, kind of in the same regard that maybe the USSR did during their heyday. The western parts of Europe are probably going to be on the side of the UK, which is on the side of the US. But to hear that the EU leaders are literally defecating their skivvies just at the mere fact or thought that Trump could literally sweep them away in the middle of the night, like a true dreamweaver, is when Forseti told me that, I fell off my chair and I was laughing and crying with joy. Yeah, there's a positive takeaway with that. So there's that front. But then the Greenland front, very interesting. Now, I knew Greenland was strategic for trade route purposes, but to hear the military angle and perspective on that is truly something I haven't thought about in depth as the other. But to then realize that in the acquisition and acquirement of Greenland by the U.S., that will be considered a threat to Canada, which you're thinking, how's that a threat to Canada? But then you realize, it's a threat to China, which Canada is a proxy state of China. You see? So then it becomes a threat. And then, due to proximity of the two countries, Canada and U.S., Mark Carnage has to come to heel and has to kowtow to the Emperor Caesar Donald Trump. And that will be the realignment for Canada. Yeah, that'll be the gender realignment for Canada that everyone's been waiting for. How about that? Okay. We have a whole politics section to go, and I desperately want to get to that. And before we go our separate ways, I don't want to postpone any stories for tomorrow, but why don't we do that? We're going to take this quick little break here. When we get back, we're going to get into some real deal politics, and we're going to get into what's happening now with the Fed chair. It's pretty bombastic, and as well as the return of Dan Bombingo, and I cannot wait for that. So stand by, and here's a little tune here from someone you're going to be hearing about later this year. He's coming back from obscurity and claiming what's rightfully his as well. This is from the incredible Freddie Vedder, the true talent, unknown brother. Anyways, stand by. We'll be back.
So she said, and I got a little door for you. Was your daddy in the somebody floor? I can't remember. I don't remember things that I wanted to say. Don't know nothing about what your daddy. What they said. Oh, I'm still alive. Oh, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. Yeah. Oh, I'm still alive. Oh, I'm still alive. I don't remember things that I wanted to say.
Okay, we are back. We are back here. World at War season 6 premiere. What a heck of a night, huh? And what a heck of a true talent that was. That was Freddie Vedder, the forgotten brother of Eddie, who he just will not recognize. And however, we will. That's what we do around here. We find the true raw talent. Anyways, okay, we're going to continue now in a closing manner with some real deal politics. A little unusual, but this is a great time of war. Sometimes you have to call some audibles for some great changes. Anyways, let's now go to the DC Beltway as we get to the bottom of the bureaucracy and the bloated blowhards who love a healthy game of bingo for some real deal politics just the way you like it. Okay, well, yes, real deal politics, as now there seems to be major headway in a very disgruntled relationship between Trump and the federal chairman, Mr. Powell. Yeah, you might have heard about that. Federal chairman Jerome Powell. As now federal prosecutors are now opening this investigation into what exactly, I couldn't tell you. Parking tickets, jaywalking, late night escapades at the Gentlemen's Club. We're not sure yet. But the investigation, which is now said to center around renovations of the Federal Reserve's headquarters in Washington, it's just another sign of the escalations, the tensions, the rifts between President Trump's long-running pressures and his campaign that he's waging war on Jerome Powell. Well, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Criminals has now opened this criminal investigation. Yes, indeed. The chairman himself over the central bank's renovation of Washington's headquarters and whether Mr. Powell lied to Congress about the scope of the project. So this is so ridiculous. It's almost like the disputes you have with your home renovation contractors compared to the investigations that should be happening on a whole plethora of other people for a lot more just malfeasance. I guess, when you're really combing a sandbox and, find me the guy, I'll find you the crime kind of ordeal, I guess this is what you get. Well, the inquiry, which includes an analysis of Mr. Powell's public statements and an examination of his spending records, was approved in November by a woman who I've never seen smile or happy ever, very raging, Janine Pirro, longtime ally of President Trump, and a fixture staple over there at the retirement home of Fox News. Now, the investigation is remarkable, some have said, yet despicable, others might have said as well. But others are saying it's just another sign of the incompetence of $2.5 billion that was spent for renovation, and nobody's happy. Not even Mr. Powell himself, actually.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
Yes, we got that. Thank you. Finally, our final story here tonight, as the time constraints allows us to, is, well, everybody loves a comeback. Everybody loves redemption. I mean, ask Kiss. They've had how many reunion tours? How many different Rocky movies? And the list goes on and on. But this time, it's a little different, as now the world is now waiting, and some say hiding, but the world is now waiting for the arrival and the return of, well, Mr. Bonbingo. Yes, that's right. Dan Bonbingo is now set to return to his station headquarters over there as the Mr. Podcaster who takes no gruff and guff from anybody else, gets to the bottom of it. That's true. Yes. Who's rejoicing? Who's happy? Who's doing cartwheels out there? Well, Dan Bongiorno, as he's called in many places. In fact, we don't even know his name. Well, the former FBI deputy director, which if you blinked, missed, you might have missed it or sneezed or had laundry to do. Well, he was an FBI deputy director for a very short time. Granted, he's no Anthony Scaramucci. That is a world record for the Guinness, but this is not too far behind, as now the man who was the most pro-Trump podcast before, well, seems to be the most pro-Trump podcast still in his return. Will restart the show after a rocky tenure as the law enforcement agency. He was pretending to be there. Yeah, that's right. The man who stepped down as the deputy director is now set to come back, and he's saying, quote, "I'm excited to get back behind the mic and reconnect directly with the audience." He said, "We're coming back bigger, bolder, and always unfiltered, because that's the way Bonbingo wants it." Well, I, for one, I can't understand why is there so much hatred for Danny B to begin with. Well, maybe this might have something to do with it. And when I tell you what the ratio now is and what his positive response is from fans versus otherwise, you're going to blow up like a bingo ball. Check this out.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it, outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Bongino, after talking about this all the time, and you saw him right there in the clip saying, don't let up on the Epstein thing. We got to keep talking about this. None of this makes sense. What you didn't see there is he even went as far as one time on the Tim Pool show, he said, I have it on good authority that Jeffrey Epstein worked for Middle Eastern intelligence. Could be any of those Middle Eastern countries, of course. But so he said all that. Then he goes in there. He says, I've seen the files. He killed himself. That was approximately 2 months before the official position of the administration was that the files don't exist. They said he's seen the files and he's killed himself. And by the way, as you know, because we followed this whole crazy train, right? You know, the end result of it is that the bill passed. The files are to be released.
There he is, Mr. Bombastic right there. Now, get this now, as we continue to forge ahead here, as we close the night with just complete and utter amazement of this true American talent. 67% now of negative comments, it said, that he's now enduring during his shows and all of his postings. 67%. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And he's gone to the extent of he's blocking people, blocking a lot of people. And, you know, when you get to that point, you got to question why you're even returning to begin with. But just to give you another taste, another preview of just how bad these comments are, I'm going to share with you a comment of one of his viewers, I guess you could say, over there on Rumble. And viewer discretion advised, but who cares at this point? Listen to this as I'll read it to you. Well, this is from a gentleman who I don't know at the moment, but he said the following, quote, "Cuck boy Israeli, first fed Danny, is now the enemy. He's such a low IQ degenerate that he now threatens families on X. You little punk, all talk now, action, biatch." No, it's French, I think. "You treasonous seditionist POS, you deserve to hang with the rest of the traitors after a 1-minute trial, because that's all it would take is 1 minute. Everyone knows you're a cuck fed now. Everyone. The only people who will support you are the boomer feds and Zionists. That's it. That's all you got. I hope little micro-brain Dan doesn't have kids. Growing up with that coward as a dad would be very sad. Just think if Dan was a real man and came out and said, look, I tried to do what I could, but the deep state is just too deep, so I failed. A little humility would go a long way, but nope. Little angry steroid boy Danny is actually trying to defend himself. This bitch coward made millions writing books, naming names, but when it came down to it and had the power, he folded like a cheap suit. You're now irrelevant. The best thing you can do is STFU, shut the front door, signed all of America. Well, if that's not true honesty, the old American fashion way, I don't know what is, really, at this point. Just incredible. Final thoughts. Yes, Denver Menu is a complete and utter waste. Talentless humanoid piece of garbage. Brought to you by Give Send Go, Real2Go. Final thoughts here. Thank you very much. It's our new announcer we're working with. Well, final thoughts as we close the season 6 premiere and talked about the new American empire. It flutters my heart to think that we have some very heavy, dark days ahead of us. But to keep things simple here and to keep it very layman's, we've gotten this far. All of us together, and we're still here. A lot of us are still here together, as diverse in opinions, perspectives, solutions we are. I have great respect for many of you out there in just that. Your opinions, your thoughts, your help, your visions, and even your nuances at times are quite darling, to say that, because it's those moments and those true diversities of our, coming together, our true voluntary collective is what makes the American destiny and the American experience quite different than many other factions out there and factors and countries. And it's just a pleasure to be here to witness this incredible change, because we have the power. We have the power to really change things. They might have the diplomacy of the barrel of a gun, but in this case, well, so do we. We got guns as well. Anyways, on that note, I will be back tomorrow with the great legendary Jim Fetzer. I have some other stories that we couldn't get to tonight, but you'll see them and hear them tomorrow. And always feel free to, I guess I should start saying this more because we're so damn shadow banned. Feel free to share these. We try to put clips out when we can, if we can. And, I'm frozen on Rumble, 3 years in the running now, but we might do something about that. You can always find this on Spotify, Brighteon, Rumble, of course, Facebook. It's a little hard. They don't have videos anymore. Everything is Reels, and as well as YouTube. So I wanted to say that public service announcement. Okay. On that note, I will be back tomorrow. So until then, I'm telling you, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. Dean Ryan signing out. Good night, everyone. Lonely no more.
Mountains are waiting for moonlight to come. I got lost on the highways. Don't ask me where I've been. Oh, what I've done. Save me.